Black is beautiful. That is the message. Keep repeating it. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. Now you hear in the news that we're going to finally address racism, inequality, discrimination. Well, one thing is stating a problem, even acknowledging a problem. Race issues, especially black issues, black race, black culture runs deep. It's in our subconscious. As we know, the subconscious mind is stronger than the conscious mind. Now, what is the subconscious? The subconscious are thoughts that we are not fully aware of, yet they influence our actions and our feelings. This is very important, so we're going to repeat it. The subconscious is thoughts that we are not fully aware of, yet they influence our actions and our feelings. Now, also, neuroscientists talk about priming. Now, priming is non-conscious. Now, what is priming? Priming is exposure to a stimulus to affect, activate a memory. Now, what is an exposure? Exposure can be an image, a word, a touch. Black is beautiful is the message. Now, you keep hearing Black Lives Matter, but that is a low bar. Yes, keep saying Black Lives Matter, but raise the bar. You can say both. Black Lives Matter. Black is beautiful. Black Lives Matter. Black is beautiful. See, my channel, Life is Wonderful, is about helping people see that their life is limitless, that they can achieve their best life. In 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor became Supreme Court Justice, and she said the first step in getting power is to be visible. You see, women had to see another woman in power. That way it was attainable. It was the same thing with color. When Barack Obama became president, he sent positive hope to all black men, black women, boys and girls, that they too can be president, that they too can have this power and this freedom. You see, that is very essential to what people want. They want to have that power and the freedom to live their own life. Talk about Black is beautiful. Talk about the current Miss USA, Chelsea Kirst, the current Miss Teen USA, Kylie Garris, Miss America, Nia Franklin. All black, all beautiful, all smart and talented, all beauty queens. See, that is going back to the prime. You got to keep showing those images of Black is beautiful. Now, also being from Houston, I also want to talk about one other thing, another person, Katherine Johnson. There was a movie called Hidden Figures, and she was an engineer, and she helped NASA, and she helped John Glenn, and without her calculations, John Glenn was able to circle Earth. And by doing the orbit of the Earth, we could then keep moving forward and land on the moon. So a black woman was really responsible for us to land on the moon. Now, what each of us has to examine is our own biases, our own ideas, our own comfort levels. Just be honest with ourselves. Now, let me tell you a story about what had happened about myself in 2017. I'd broken up with a girlfriend that I'd been with for 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was with a woman for 12 years. So I've been in committed relationships for over 15 years. Now, in those 15 years, I got sober, I got recovery, I went back and got my MBA. I have this knowledge, I have this emotional healing, I have much more self-esteem. Oh, it's funny. Awareness is a funny thing. So I go online, do online dating. I meet a black woman. We communicate, we set up a date. We go out, we enjoy each other's company, we go out on a second date. Then decide that she's gonna come over. And I live in a high rise, 117 units. Now she's gonna come over late. So there's nobody in or wander in the building. I go downstairs, bring her up. We spend some time together. Now I know she's got to get up early to go to work. At 6 a.m., alarm sounds, and then it dawns on me. Is anybody going to be downstairs? So we dress, we go downstairs. There's nobody downstairs. We go out the lobby, go out the doors, walk her to her car. She drives off. She goes off to work. And as I'm walking back to the building, I feel relieved. I feel relieved that no one saw me. Because what would that do to my reputation? What would other people think? I wasn't even thinking about my feelings. I wasn't thinking about the feelings of this new woman in my life. I was thinking about what other people thought. Now this bothered me because I shouldn't be having this, it wasn't these insecurities, but it was also more than insecurities. So she came over a second time. Same feelings, same thoughts. Now I'm getting really mad at myself because this should not be happening. So now I have to do some work. So I spend some time asking myself some questions. Do I like her? Yes. Do we have fun? Yes. Do we connect? Yes. Is she beautiful? Yes. Is she smart? Yes. Does she have a career? Yes. Then that's my answer. That I like this woman. So then I could stop worrying about what other people thought. I was just worried about me. I could be proud of the relationship. I could be proud of this new woman in my life. So she comes over a third time and I feel so much better and I feel relaxed in the relationship. Now, this was very valuable to me because I had to search my feelings around dating black women, about black people in general, and just my own thoughts about colorism. Because if she had been Hispanic, since I'm Hispanic, and she had been brown, I wouldn't have had these thoughts. Yet she had black skin, and I had all these thoughts. So what was the difference between brown and black? That was my first kind of enlightenment to saying that there is colorism, that was racist thinking, and that I needed to kind of look at how that enters into my subconscious. So let's look at history, and I'll prove it to you in other ways with church, art, and media to see how racism, how we think of white as being kind of superior, how we've almost been brainwashed to think more of white, that white is the savior, that white is pure. Now growing up, I was growing up Catholic, I got a lot of images about brown hair Jesus, white skin. I even saw a blonde haired Jesus with blue eyes. And this is what you would see in Catholicism, Orthodox, any of the different sects of Protestant. Also, all the different religions of Christianity or Bible-centered churches is a white Jesus. Now think about this. Israel, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, that's just north of Egypt. Egypt is dark brown people. You're just south of Syria, light brown people. You're also mixed in with Palestinians. Palestinians are light brown people. You are just down from down the Red Sea into Ethiopia. Ethiopia is black people and black Jews. So now think about it. Was Jesus really white? The way this has been kind of pushed for centuries. I don't think so. I also believe that God is love and God is in every single color, and that is how God should be depicted. Jesus should be depicted, the Virgin Mary, all of this should be depicted in multicolored forms. You look at me. I went to 23andMe and I got a DNA test. I know from my dad's side, 33% is Croatian, Balkan, Greek. From my mother's side, I have 18% Spanish, Portuguese. Because my family has been in South America, I have 20% Native American blood. I got some other percentages. I also have 7% unassigned. So that kind of shows you that we are all a mixture of different races, of different bloodlines. Now let's look at art. Now I love art history. Now the most popular image of Jesus in art was painted by Warner Salmon in 1940. This is the image that you see whether you're Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, Christian, Bible-centered. And it's the same image that has been produced by over like 500 million times. The YMCAs, or you go to funerals, there's prayer cards, or servicemen that are going over to World War II or subsequent wars were getting cards with Jesus on it. Everyone has seen this image. What's the most famous image of Jesus? Is the Last Supper, painted by Leonardo da Vinci in 1492 through 1495 in Milan, Italy. Everyone has seen some type of depiction of the Last Supper and the 12 disciples. Now, other pictures, paintings of Jesus that are very famous are ones that are done by Michelangelo, Raphael, El Greco, Dali, Velasquez. These are in all the most famous art museums in Europe and the United States. So people are seeing this. Millions of people are seeing this year after year after year. They keep seeing a white Jesus. What a lot of people don't know is that, especially in America, is about the Black Madonna, the Black Virgin Mary. There's about 480 Black Madonnas in Europe. The most famous one is in Montserrat, which is about an hour north of Barcelona, Spain. I personally have been there. I went there. There's a statue from the Byzantine era. It's probably done, they say, around 1150 AD. You see, there's another famous Black Madonna in Poland from this town called Częstochowa. It's about an hour north of Krakow. The country with the most Black Madonnas is France. Now in America, you have two. You have the Shrine of the Black Madonna in Detroit, which is an actual church, and you have a painting that was commissioned by an Episcopalian priest at the Trinity Church in Manhattan, the one that's next to the Twin Towers, the one that survived 9/11. Mark Dukes is the artist, and he did this, which is not only the Black Madonna, but she's also almost like the patron saint of gun violence. So it spent some time in Manhattan. It's also spent some time in Santa Clara University, Jesuit College in California. What you need to do is have many more images of Virgin Mary or Jesus. Because in Jesus, the oldest painting that around is one that was probably paint on plaster in 250 AD. It's in Syria. It's actually a brown, kind of a brown Jesus. Now from that era, you have a few from 250 to 450. But then of course you have the big push with all the famous artists at the Age of Enlightenment after 1560 to 1850 is where you got a lot of the famous painters and a lot of famous paintings of Jesus. But the good news is now some people are catching on. St. Albans Cathedral in St. Albans, Hertfordshire, England, has decided to put up a Last Supper. Now this is a Last Supper with a black Jesus, and this was painted by Lorna May Wadsworth. And they are putting it into the cathedral because they do notice is that you do need to show other depictions. You need to show Jesus as black. Virgin Mary is black. You can't just keep doing the white thing. You got to keep showing it. You can also show it in brown, or if you're in Asia, more of a yellow skin Jesus. Finally, let's talk about the media. The media, we have certain books and movies. In 1915, The Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith was a silent movie. It was actually shown in the White House with President Wilson. Now this shows a black person. It's actually a white actor in blackface. He's menacing. He's terrorizing this woman, and this woman jumps off a cliff and kills herself. It also shows the KKK galloping heroically and showing the KKK in such a magnificent light. There was an author named Thomas Dixon. He wrote a trilogy. One of his books was called The Klansman in 1905, which was actually the basis for the screenplay for the movie The Birth of a Nation. Now his trilogy, which he was very popular, really talked about white supremacy and the KKK. Let's look at some famous books. Mark Twain wrote Huck Finn. And in Huck Finn, there is a slave called Jim. Jim is illiterate and he's gullible. But also Mark Twain also wrote him as good-hearted with feelings. People talk about Gone with the Wind. What does Gone with the Wind do? Well, Gone with the Wind shows slaves that are happy, simple-minded, loyal, naive. And it kind of really downplays the horrors of slavery. And it kind of almost has a rosy depiction of slavery. To Kill a Mockingbird, a book written by Harper Lee. It's also made into a movie. The lead actor was Gregory Peck. We've all probably either read the book or seen the movie. And in that there is a black man, Tom Robinson. Tom Robinson is accused of rape. He goes on trial. Gregory Peck, Atticus Finch, defends him, gets him off. He is proven innocent, yet he still gets a guilty verdict. He gets sentenced to death. So in the book and in the movie, he runs away and he gets shot in the back 17 times. Why? Because this was a black man accused by a white woman. And this white woman actually liked this black man. This white woman actually kissed this black man. Yet the black man ended up innocent and dead. We could also look at Star Wars. Now you look at Star Wars and the hero is Luke Skywalker. He's wearing white. He is white. He is the defender of the Republic. He's going against Darth Vader, who's in all black. He's got a black mask. He's got a black shield for covering his face. He is all evil. And then Luke Skywalker is the one who turns out to be victorious. He defeats Darth Vader. Slavery ends, yet we still had to keep the same narrative, Jim Crow, so that the imagery is that the black man is a brute, a rapist, a threat. So let's talk about this thing about rape. Now, I'm getting these statistics from the FBI, the Department of Justice, and from RAINN. RAINN is RAINN, Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. 8 out of 10 rapes are by someone you know. That means your current husband, current boyfriend, an ex, a coworker, or a family member. It is rarely some stranger. Here's the statistics. 57% of all rapes are done by white males, 27% by black males. So that means the white male is raping at more than twice the rape as black men. I can guarantee you white males have raped many more black women than vice versa. Ask white people. They see too many blacks in jail as a criminal, as a threat. They're committing most of the violent crime. Well, so let's talk about this violent crime. Now, we just talked about rape. So what is violent crime? Murder, rape, robbery, assault. So we just gave you the statistics on rape. Now on murder, blacks are committing more murders than whites, but it is very close. They're almost even. They are both committing way too many murders. Robbery, there is a big separation. Black people are committing a large percentage of the robberies. Now on the assault though, white people are committing a very large difference of assault. So if you look at violent crime, you see it at all the races, black and white, and also brown and Asian. All races are committing violent crime, and it needs to come down. And it is a kind of a disgrace for America, and it needs to come down. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "A riot is the language of the unheard." And we recently had a lot of different riots. So what happened back in 1967? We had riots in 150 cities. 90 people died, 2,000 were injured, 12,000 arrests. So President Johnson got then Governor Otto Kerner of Illinois to come up with a commission. A year later, he came up with a 400-page report stating that housing, education, employment, discrimination, and racism were the cause of this distress. And if we don't address it, it's going to repeat itself. This doesn't magically go away. So what did President Johnson do? Nothing. What did subsequent presidents do? Nothing. They may have tried to do something, but they didn't tackle it as a central theme. So here in 2020, whoever becomes the president really has to make this the #1 issue. Because we don't deal with racism and our history with blacks, also our history with Native Americans, just because we put them on reservations, it's not out of sight, out of mind. We really have to heal as a country. We really have to deal with our black issue, our Native American issue. So I challenge everyone, how do you see black people? Be honest with yourself. Because black people will feel racism viscerally, like blacks getting pulled over more, for even simple things by not putting their signal changer in their car when they want to change lanes. Or they walk into an expensive store and you see more eyes on them, keep an eye on them. Or a woman may clutch her purse more tightly in an elevator, or uneven paychecks. This happens over and over again. So what can you do? What can we do? Now I want to emphasize this thing about the subconscious. And so I want to go back to Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954. This was the historic case that went all the way up to the Supreme Court about education, about segregated schools. Should we integrate schools or keep black schools and white schools separate? Now, after they looked at the evidence, they saw that the black schools and the white schools had just as good teachers. It wasn't that there wasn't enough good teachers. But what really swung the case for the Supreme Court justices is there was a psychological test that was done by this husband and wife team, Drs. Kenneth and Mamie Clark. What they did is they took black kids between the ages of 3 and 7, and they got 2 different dolls. They have a black doll and a white doll. Then they asked the kids certain questions. The first question is what is the race of the doll? And then some other ones. The conclusions were that the black kids rather play with the white dolls and actually attributed much more positive characteristics to the white doll. So the other part of the conclusion is that the segregation of the schools actually lowered the self-esteem of black children. So what you really needed to do is integrate the schools so they didn't see the difference, because it did cause this inferiority complex. So now, what would you say? You would say, well, that was 1950. So they redid the test in 2010. This time it was done by Margaret Beals Spencer. And this time she used white children and black children. But instead of using dolls, she used cartoon depictions, and she had kind of like a color chart of different shades between white, brown, and black, and asked them similar questions. So what happened? Now, the good news is that the black children did have a more positive feeling, more self-esteem around the black dolls. The white children really had this intense bias towards whiteness. So the conclusion is that darker things were devalued and whiter things were more valued. Now I also want to see, if you don't believe me about the subconscious, let's look at how blacks look at colorism. How blacks favor lighter blacks to darker blacks. Here's a statistic. Did you know in 2009, black people worldwide spent $10 billion on bleaching products to make their skin lighter? By 2020, it was expected to be $23 billion. And here is this head scratcher of them all. The biggest market, Africa. Ain't that some shit? Let's look at a country, India. They have light Indians and dark Indians, but the lighter Indians are higher class. The darker Indians are lower class, and they have lower chances of economic opportunities. Now we talk about racism. Let's even look at India's most famous person, Gandhi. Now Gandhi, if you read his earlier letters, he had some really racist thoughts in India, where he actually said that black people should not intermingle with whites or with Indians. He actually thought that the blacks were a lesser class than whites and Indians. Good news is, he went to South Africa and he saw what South Africans were dealing with, what the blacks in South Africa were dealing with. He also saw that the blacks had the same type of struggle and the blacks were no different. And he changed his racist thoughts, where he thought that the blacks were equal to the whites, that the blacks were equal to the Indians, and that he changed his. This is what I'm saying is even though you may have thought up like me about when I started dating a black woman, you may have all these odd thoughts. You can change. Gandhi did. There's room for everybody. Growing up, my father used to talk to me about Brazil. He said Brazil was the most multicultural country in the world. We have all shades together with all different types of shades, and they're all mixed in together. Yeah, but here's the thing. If you look at all the presidents of Brazil, they've all been white. They've been elected a woman. She was white. So even colorism still takes a place in what is considered probably the most multicultural country in terms of acceptance of seeing two people walk down the street together. So what I'm saying, what I keep saying is whether it's through priming or just through history, is that racism, colorism is in our subconscious. So, what can we do? Let's go back to music. In 1969, Nina Simone wrote the song Young, Gifted, and Black. Now listen to these lyrics. Oh, but my joy of today is that we can all be proud to say, to be young, gifted, and black is where it's at. It also take these words from I Have a Dream speech from Dr. Martin Luther King. Listen to these words. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now, if you really want black people and white people to understand each other, they still got to go to music. The real storytellers, the real poets, they're in country music and they're in rap. And I can already hear it now. It's a white people saying, I can listen to all types of music except rap. And I can hear black people say, I can listen to all types of music except country. Let me quote 2 different artists. First, country music. Tom T. Hall had his song, Old Dogs, Children, and Watermelon Wine. This is a line from that song. God bless little children before they're too young to hate. Let's go to Tupac in his kind of meaning, Thug Life, where each letter stands for a word. The hate you give little infants fucks everyone. You see, both of these poets, storytellers, did understand hate and love, and that only love will conquer all. Now, why do white people hate to be called racists? They're constantly on the defensive saying, I'm not a racist. Now, there's a difference between being a racist and having racist thoughts or racist thinking. Now, what I had shown earlier about dating a black woman, that was racist thinking. And I did have a racist thought. When I was 19, at the University of Texas, I was down drinking on 6th Street with a friend. This was at 2 a.m. I was drunk. I was walking one way with a buddy. There was 2 other people walking in opposite direction. One of the persons was black. I used the N-word. I still remember this over 30 years ago. Back then I was drunk. I wanted to fight. I was just being stupid. But I remembered it. And then I still remembered it. It still made me feel guilty. And I vowed never to use that word again, because that is an ugly word. Now, going back, so I've had racist thoughts. I've had racist thinking. But I have changed. I mean, like I said, Gandhi changed. And it's okay to challenge yourself. Now, why do white people hate to be called a racist? Because they don't want to be associated with one of these 5 things. Adolf Hitler, Nazis, the swastika, skinheads, or KKK. Because any one of those 5 images or groups or persons, those people really are not real. We can call them small-minded, ignorant, stupid, full of hate. But they're really inhuman because they have no feeling. Because if they had feeling, they wouldn't believe what they believe. So it's almost like you can just call them losers, and they're almost like non-existent. But I do want to say one thing about things that white people really have to understand. And this is what I've just heard in the last 3 months about race and racism. I didn't own any slaves. Slavery happened a long time ago. I've never been mean to a black person. I don't see racism. Blacks commit most of the violent crime. All lives matter. Oh, playing the race card. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I am not a racist. Racism exists, but not as bad anymore. I don't see color. The media is overplaying racism, doing blackface for anything, even Halloween. And finally, the word thug. Now, I'm just going to finish with this one thing. Now, see, black people, when they hear a white person say thug, it's almost like a substitution for the N-word. And that's why black people don't like white people using the word thug. Now, black people can use the word thug. They can use it as a verb or as a noun. They can be saying, I'm going to thug it out. Oh, you're going to be a thug tonight. To them, thug is almost like a rebel, someone kind of going against the grain, against the rules. Now, see, growing up, to me, a thug was a person that was like in the mafia, organized crime. Oh, that's a thug. Now it's still organized crime, the mafia, or drug cartels. Those are thugs. But a white person, me, or a non-black, using the word thug, it's as equal as saying the N-word. So don't use it. That's why it's off limit. And it's usually said in a negative way. Blacks can say thug just like they can say the N-word in a positive or negative way. It's just part of their jargon. So my challenge to everyone is, especially to black people, tell your story. Be open. Be vulnerable. If you are non-black, listen to black stories. Empathize. Stop being defensive. Listen. You may see more of this because Hugo V, and Life is Wonderful, is also teaming up with Sean Haley. He's a high school buddy of mine, Haley and Associates. So you may see us at a school, a university, an organization, at a corporation, talking about race and getting people to understand how to improve either themselves, their organization, or their processes. I want to finish with a quote by yours truly, Hugo V, on racism. I am everybody. I am nobody. I am a human being. Black is so beautiful. Life is wonderful.